Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zack, and for the last week I've been driving the 2026 Lincoln Nautilus Black Label. Up front is a 2.0 liter turbocharged inline-4 as well as a hybrid system, and down below is a CVT. Now I am super excited to be making this video because I've spent the last week driving the Lincoln Nautilus. I seem to be on a one Lincoln a year schedule. Last year I got the Navigator. The year before that, I got the Corsair. And so the 2026 Lincoln is the Nautilus, and I'm excited to share all the features with you here today. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that 2-liter turbo plus a hybrid system under the hood. Well, the hybrid is not available on every trim level. It is available on the higher trim levels, and altogether it makes 285 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. The hybrid has been pretty good. I've been averaging upper 20s for the miles per gallon, which isn't super stellar, but it's also not terrible. And I like the driving experience. Is this going to be something that you bring up at dinner? No, not quite. It's not really a braggio number, or the driving feel isn't something so incredibly special that you have to mention it. It's fine. It does the job. I don't feel like the Nautilus needs any more power. I don't feel like it's lacking in any category under the hood, and that's fine. Like I said, paired to it is a CVT. And honestly, I had to look up if it even was a CVT because you don't really notice it. Because of that hybrid system, it's switching in and out of gas and electric. The CVT actually feels pretty normal in this application, so I like it for what it is. Last but not least about the drivetrain, this particular Lincoln Nautilus is all-wheel drive. If you opt for the hybrid, they are only all-wheel drive and hybrid, but you can find them in front-wheel drive for the standard non-hybrid powertrain. How does it feel to drive the Lincoln Nautilus? It's really nice. It does feel really, really good. It's comfortable, it's smooth, and it is that Lincoln experience that you would come to know and love. Maybe not the Lincoln experience that you would come to know and love 50 years ago, but for a modern SUV, it's smooth, it's quiet, and it does feel luxurious. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior, because boy, do we have a lot to talk about. Well, in front of me is a giant pillar-to-pillar screen. This was huge when they launched the Lincoln Nautilus. I mean that figuratively and physically. So up in front of you do have a speedometer and a bunch of other gauges and things like that. This is a really smooth experience, and people ask me, is that giant screen distracting? And actually, it's not. It's not nearly as distracting as you would think. It is a big screen, and there's a lot to look at, sure, but it's not overbearing even when driving at night. So big props to Lincoln for being able to do that. On the steering wheel, we have unlabeled buttons. So this is the new sort of style of button that Ford and Lincoln is using. You have to look on the screen to see what the buttons do because the buttons can do different things. I personally don't like this. However, the system here in the Lincoln is tremendously better than found in Lexus products, so I really, really like that. The steering wheel is also partially maroon, as you'll see throughout the rest of the interior. I really like that mix of color. And you do have your cruise control options here on the wheel, and this does have Blue Cruise, which is Ford and Lincoln's hands-free cruise control. Off to the left, we do have a climate control vent. We do have some physical buttons for our tailgate release and gas cap release, as well as our headlight switches and gauge dimmer switch, power parking brake all the way down below. And moving on to the door, at night, we get these really cool designs that come up on the door. I really, really like that. But down below, we have speakers, 3 levels of memory seats, lock and unlock, power mirrors, and power windows. Moving up into the center, we have that continuation of that giant screen. The right-hand side of the screen you can configure to a couple different things to show your audio, your trip odometer, clock, things like that. And then we have a secondary screen here in the center. So this is going to run your Apple CarPlay, but also be your settings and menus and things like that. We do get a 360 camera, which is very, very nice, very clear and high resolution, and was very fun to look at as I just took this vehicle through the car wash. So that was fun. If you got kids, I'm sure they'll be entertained by that. But we also have options for our massage seats and digital scent. So on the Black Label, the Lincoln Nautilus will put a perfume in the air. And something funny about this is that when they launched this vehicle, I went to a press launch event here in Chicago years and years ago, And they actually gave us little cologne bottles of this scent. So this azure scent, I actually wore to a friend's wedding. So kind of a fun fact there. And if you go into the apps, there is the rejuvenate mode. So there are 4 rejuvenate modes, where the Lincoln Navigator last year only had 3, 2 of which are guided meditations and 2 of which are just sound and color. They take over the entire middle screen. It lowers your seat, it turns the heat on or the cooling on, puts a scent in the air, and it guides you through relaxation. This sounds super gimmicky, and it is pretty gimmicky. However, I personally have had a rather stressful week this week, and so I've been rejuvenating here in the Lincoln Nautilus, and genuinely, I put it on and fell asleep in my driveway. That's how calming this is. I also have a friend right now who is pregnant, and I offered if she wanted to try the rejuvenate mode, and she was in the car for 40 minutes. I think she fell asleep. So this is a very, very cool mode. Is it gimmicky? Yes, but it is pretty sweet at the end of the day. We also do have our climate controls ran through this screen as well. Pretty run-of-the-mill stuff here. Hasn't been laggy. We get dual zone. Down below that, 2 climate control vents, and we have our shifter across the dash. And then we have a bunch of buttons here in the center. So obviously the volume knob right in the middle. Big, easy to use. But then we have our auto holding brake, our hazard switch, parking assist, max defrost, camera button, and our drive mode select for normal, conserve, excite, slippery, and deep conditions. My one gripe down here is the hazard switch. It took me a while to find it. I think hazard switches should be a lot more prominent, a lot easier to spot at a glance, and this really isn't. Then we do get a wireless charger. We get a 12-volt. We get USB-A as well as USB-C, and we get cup holders off to the right. So we'll do a big friggin' bottle test, and it fails. We knew that many, many moons ago. And then we have our center console, 2 more USB-Cs, as well as a 12-volt outlet. And the seats. The seats are almost a dark, dusty powder blue, which I really, really like. I love all the different color combos and different materials that they've used in here. Definitely helps make the interior feel a little bit more upscale. But the seats have been very comfortable, massaging, all of that all together. Absolutely adored it. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, getting in the back of the Lincoln Nautilus, and something that I really don't like are these handles. Now, there's a little button in here, and you press them, the whole handle itself doesn't actually move. It's easy for me to operate. That's not my issue. My issue is that I did pick up a friend who recently had shoulder surgery, and he said it was very, very hard to open because he had a bad shoulder, so he kind of had to pivot weird, and it was a little too high up. That's an issue because Lincoln buyers are oftentimes a little bit older, and so older generation of people, older people, often have more surgeries, arm issues, mobility issues, and things like that, and I think this is kind of cumbersome in that way. So I, a spry 28-year-old, can open it fine, but others might struggle. Once we are back here, first of all, before we even get in, that powder blue seat carries on back here. Here's a little waiver for the Lincoln Blue Cruise. We do have Revell speakers here, power windows. This is the latch you get in and out from the inside. Kind of interesting there. More speakers. We do have a charger right here. Very, very interesting. Seat back pocket as well. We have heated seats back here. Love that. And climate vents. I love this panel right here, mainly because, and the panel up there kind of shares it too. This looks very concept car-y, this very big smooth panel. And I actually reviewed an early 2000s Lincoln concept car, and it really reminds me of that. So it's kind of cool to see a production version. Looking over here, as you can see, well, first of all, we get this giant sunroof, but also this looks very, very elegant, very comfortable, and it is. We do have a center console with cup holders in here as well, but you can fold that up. Knee room is good, headroom is good as well. So this is a comfortable 2-row SUV. You're gonna be able to fit everyone and anyone here in the back seat. Very roomy, very comfortable without trying to squeeze that 3rd row in. If you wanna go up to the Aviator, that's gonna be kind of a compact 3-row. And then of course the Navigator is gonna be the big 3-row. So here it is, the Lincoln Nautilus back seat, absolutely fantastic. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. I think this is the first time that a press car has actually had a plate that spelled something out, far. Interesting. So over here is actually the button in order to open it. Took a little bit of time to find, but that is okay. Power operated tailgate, of course. We do have an ice scraper, although it is finally starting to warm up here in Illinois. Don't really need this, but here is the rear cargo space. Absolutely love it. I think it actually works well. Plenty of space. We also have buttons here to lower the second row. So there you go, tons more space now in the back of the Lincoln Nautilus. We have a 12-volt outlet. I would have liked to have seen a wall outlet, especially given the fact that it is a hybrid. And we do get a spare tire, which on hybrids is sometimes hard to find. Normally they tried to hide the batteries somewhere down here so they don't give you a spare tire. You get a spare tire here in the Nautilus. So tons and tons to love. This is fantastic cargo space, fantastic second row. So I really have to hand it to the people that did the packaging here of the Lincoln Nautilus. Really, really nice. Come up here, one press of the button, power operated, right back down, smooth, calm, and collected, which I would expect from the Lincoln Motor Company. Now we gotta talk about the looks. I could honestly, genuinely take or leave the look of the Lincoln Nautilus. I think it's fine. I think it's cool. The headlights at night, are kind of special and light up, and the Lincoln badge, and it does have a welcome light, which is very, very nice. When you walk up to it, it does this little performance, which is nice, but again, it's fine. I don't think you're really going to stand out in a crowd when pulling up in a Lincoln Nautilus as opposed to any other luxury vehicle. With all that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the Lincoln Nautilus? Well, I have really loved this experience. Not only the rejuvenate mode, which has been great, but the hands-free driving on the highway, the Revell speakers in here, the comfort, the hybrid has been great, all the different materials. This feels like a great luxury car. It's operated as a great luxury car, and I've just overall really, really liked this. However, I do have 3 hesitations. First is the engine under the hood. I don't know how reliable that system is going to be. The 2-liter turbo with the hybrid does seem strained a little bit under the hood when getting this car going. You do have to rev it quite a bit, so I just am curious about the longevity of that. The second thing I'm hesitant about is the fact that this is a Chinese-built Ford. This is actually built in China. And on its face, I don't think that that's bad. I think China has high standards in their factories. I don't think every Chinese car is bad. However, a lot of people are searching for an American luxury car. They want to buy American. That means a lot to some people here. And so I don't want people to buy this Lincoln Nautilus and spend the $85,000 and then go, hey, wait a second, this was built in China? And you have to go, yeah, it was actually built in China. So it might be deceiving to some people. The last hesitation I have about this vehicle is just the direction of Lincoln in general. Lincoln, to me, as of right now, is trailing a little bit behind Cadillac. And I don't have a specific reason why. I think Cadillac products are just a little bit more enticing right now. They just seem to have a better lineup and have that comfort down to a T. And I can't really figure out why. I think Lincoln needs some type of halo car, or Lincoln needs some type of aspirational vehicle that will help sell vehicles like this. That's what Porsche does. Porsche sells so many Macans and so many Cayennes because they have the Porsche 911. Everyone wants a Porsche 911. But you walk into the dealer and you see that 6-figure price tag and you go, well, I could do a Macan. At least I still have the Porsche badge. The Porsche 911 gets more people in the doors of Porsche dealers than any of their other products. That's how they sell Macans and Cayennes. Lincoln, to me, doesn't have that. The Lincoln Navigator is very, very nice, don't get me wrong, but it's not that special, and it doesn't get my foot into a Lincoln dealer. It just kind of exists, and like I said, it's not a bad vehicle. I like it quite a bit, but there's just no speciality with it. And I think Lincoln is in need of a little bit of a brand rejuvenation, a little bit of futuristic. Maybe they need a dedicated EV like Cadillac is moving forward with. Maybe they need a Navigator R with the 5.2-liter from the Raptor R. Maybe they just need something that sets them apart from the rest. Because as of right now, it feels like Lincoln's vehicles were designed by AI. You type in to a search engine and just say, hey, make a luxury SUV. And boom, it comes out like this. There you go. But where's the fun in that? Where's the special feeling in that? That's where I start to struggle with the Lincoln brand. So here it is, the Lincoln Nautilus Black Label. I think it's a great car. I really, really enjoy it. It just doesn't seek anything higher. It doesn't seek to be anything better. Maybe you like that. And if you do, well, here's a Nautilus. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Lincoln for letting me borrow this Nautilus for the last week. Huge thank you to G. Schmitz for facilitating the cleaning and delivery of this vehicle. And of course, the Midwest Automotive Media Association. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.